Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's sections. I'm Sharon Lim, the head of School of IT and at the Faculty of Business, Finance and IT at Masa University. Today, I would like to introduce our today presenter, Miss Hema. She is a talent search consultant, okay? And she is a senior academician by professions, and she have works and liaised with industry partners and also the universities in the selecting best fit talents within the realm of the tech industry. So perhaps we will have Miss Hema here to share with us her journey of academicians, introducing herself and share her journey over here. Miss Hema?
Hi everyone. Hi. Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I think firstly, let me thank Sharon for coordinating this event, and also Masha University for inviting me for this webinar to share a lot of my experiences in terms of both academic and also as a talent search consultant. So let me give you a little bit of a brief out on my experience, and perhaps from there, we can understand what my role is in terms of a talent search consultant, and the experience thus far that I can share with you, right, to graduates and also for students who are undertaking your courses, right? So let me give you a little bit of my career insight. So I've been an academician for nearly 20 years. I've been associated with two very leading private universities, and teaching in the area of computing. So I've spent a good 20 years, I would say, contributing to the academia industry, teaching, nurturing, and also building, right, graduates who are ready to be employable, with great attitudes, and having representing themselves with their skills that they have obtained both academically, and also naturally in terms of their personality. So 20 years has been a journey for me, and it's fun to see graduates grow from their earliest level of foundation, nurturing them in both their hard skills and their soft skills, and knowing that today they are in an environment whereby they are accountable for their actions and their responsibility in the working world, right? So in my journey of being an academician, I was also part of the industry panel, whereby we would invite a lot of industries to come in to give talks, to share with the students, right, what they feel are the requirements and needs, right, and expectations that they have of their graduates, right? So part of the role that I played was to liaise with a lot of the companies, industries, to link what they had as requirement, and also to look at what was in store in terms of developing the graduates, right? So in that journey, right, I liaised with a lot of industry panels, and also looked into perhaps choosing graduates with which fitted, right, the industry in terms of their requirements. So when we look at a fit, we tend to look at both. When we talk about the computing industry, we tend to look at both the hard skills and the soft skills. So in that journey, we looked at, I personally looked at industries and their needs, and also nurtured the graduates, right, in terms of getting a job, right, and of course it starts off with the internship, and also moving on to employment, right. What I like to also infuse in is the fact that in my journey as an academician, I've seen graduates grow from people who are not able to, or rather don't have the right set of soft skills, but having them develop in the journey, right, as they go through their years of degree, right, from their foundation level to the third year. And these graduates actually, become very independent. They garner good leadership skills, right, and they themselves, empower themselves in taking responsibilities, right, and interacting with their peers. You see, so upon the role that I taken on as an academician, and upon the liaising with a lot of the industry personnel, I'd actually moved on to become an industry university liaison consultant with a leading Swedish company called Configura. And part of my role in Configura was to ensure that there was a positioning of that industry, and talk to the universities and liars and engage, right, and ultimately hire the right talent that fits the culture. So many of the organizations today and the industries today are very concerned with, whether or not two ways, right? Whether or not there is a hard skills that is in possession of the individuals which carry their competencies, and also whether the relevant soft skills, would best fit or fill the gap that there is in the organization. See? So part of my role in Configura was to talk to the students about the opportunity that there was in store, right, in the organization, right, and also to unveil to graduates that there is a company as such, and they deal with designs of spaces, and let me talk to you about what we do. So all the role that I took on was to enable the industry to connect to the academia and to share best practices of what it is on hands-on, right, to the academic world. Because many a times we have the situation where the students are thrown in with a lot of theory and not being able to understand how does it connect to the industry, right? So for example, if you have software quality, software testing, and you perform certain software testing, right, so how do you do it? How does it happen live, right? How do you perform hands-on a particular testing? So this is where the industry plays a very important role, right, to show them hands-on, get them to have a look and feel, okay, so this is how we do it, right? So a lot of my role was to get the industry, in this context was Configura, to come into the academic universities and share their softwares and their best practices, right? And this is good for the students because they get an insight not only about the company, but a variety of tools that are available out there, right? And if, let's say, in the long run, you realize that, hey, I like the way the company works, I like the atmosphere, and also have some industry visits to the company's location. Okay, great, I'd like to join the company. So it's very crucial that for me, as my role as a university liaison consultant, I had to ensure that graduates are comfortable and they like, right, the working environment, the technology that they use, right? So when you get yourself into situations of internships, right, you know what kind of company you're getting yourself into, and you have an idea of their business and their culture. And when you take your first step of the journey to the working world and employability, right, you are well aware, right, of what business this organization is in, rather than jumping into a black box and not being aware of what are the business aspects of this organization, what's the culture, right, and so on and so forth. So my role in Configura as a liaison consultant got me to realize that the industry is being very particular about who are the graduates and the candidates that they employ. And I'd like to share with you, right, in my journey of being an academician and my transition to becoming a university liaison consultant. And today I lead a few companies, tagging them into searching and sourcing, tapping the right set of talents, right? And ensuring that the candidates that I give them are both a fit in both hard skills and also soft skills. And I like to take right? The journey to which my role plays a part in infusing some of the points that we have today, right? So I think that's a little bit of the gist of my initial background, Ms. Sharon. So I think perhaps without further ado, I can move on. What say you? Shall we move on to the, yeah.
We are now in the fourth industrial revolutions, okay, and which we also call it as the IR 4.0. And these have expected to change how we live, how we work, and how we communicate. So this is likely to change all the things that we value. And presently, we can already see this is changing the business model and the employment trends. So over here, we have some students like in diploma and IT and also bachelors of IT. So can you share with us your view on the employability in the 21st century now?
Sure, right. That would be awesome to share with you all what are my thoughts, right? So I think pertaining to the title of the talk, okay, let's deduce it a little bit for everyone to understand, okay? So we have this term called employability in the 21st century. So let's take this word called employability, right? So let's break this up a little bit. So what we're looking at is we're actually looking at the key term of being employable. So if you're a graduate and you're trying to deduce this word called employability, we're looking at terms such as attributes. We're looking at terms such as skills, right? And we're looking at terms such as knowledge, right? So when we talk about these three core sets of attributes, skills, and knowledge, right? We are looking at these three elements that are actually in these participants, right? So in these graduates, right, to enter the labor market, right? So you need to possess this three characteristics, right, in order for you to enter the labor market, right? And once you enter, the reason you're entering and you have these three skills is because you are going to be effective. You're going to contribute, right, to the workforce, right? Whichever organization that you put your foot in, right, you're going to have a set of attributes, you're going to come with a set of skills, right? You have garnered a set of knowledge from your educational institution, you're entering the labor market, and you're going to be effective in the chosen workplace, right? Okay, so and now for that we have to understand that, as Ms. Sharon has pointed out, right, we are in what we call a 21st century. So when we talk about the 21st century, we're actually talking of the first century of the third millennial. And we are also at the stage where Industry 4.0 is making a very, very big impact in terms of automation and data exchange and technology, moving on into, globalization, right? Economy, right? So all of this has led the workforce of the 21st century, right, to possess the relevant skills that make you competitive. And your competition is even more stifling because it's a modern workplace today, right? So we talk about employability in the 21st century, and we are dealing with situations where we are looking at the generations today, right? So if you look at the generations today, we are dealing with generation Z, right? So if you look at the generation Z today, right? So of course we have the millennial, but today we are dealing with generation Z, which are those which are born from 1995 to 2010. So they are what we call a true digital native. So why do they term themselves as true digital native? Is from their earliest youth, they're exposed to things such as internet, you're exposed to social networks, you are also exposed to mobile systems, right? So this generation, they're very comfortable collecting, cross-referencing many sources. So because you're falling in their generation, right, you're going to have what we term as a challenge to which that you have to be competitive with the other flow of your generation, overlap with generation, millennials, and you have to work in this modern workforce, right? Okay, so when we look at employability in the 21st century, right, we need to consider your aspects of your skills, right? So if we deduce it a little bit more deeper, we're looking at two very, very distinctive set of skills that signifies a difference between one individual to the other. All right, and these are actually termed as what we call hard skills and soft skills. Right. So let me take some time to actually explain to you, right, and define to you, right, this term called skills. So when we look at skills, right, very, very evidently, right, we are dividing skills into what we term as, let's take a little bit on a very open environment, right? We generic, right? So we are dividing skills into things such as technical elements and also behavioral elements, right? So the technical elements can come from your academic, your knowledge, right? And your behavioral elements can come from your personality, right? Your attributes, right? So both of this combined, right, will actually signify into the capability of how a particular individual performs, right, in his level of work, right, and exudes that required, right, output. Okay, so when we look at skills, right, let's look a little bit more further. Let's look at the technical element. We have got technical element, we've got behavioral element. So when we look at technical elements, we are measuring what we term as hard skills, right? So what are hard skills? Hard skills are skills that you obtain, right, through training. You take training courses, you obtain your skills through educational institution, or you have skills that you learn on your job, right? And it's very specific to your work settings. Whereas when we look at soft skills, right, which is a trigger today, right? Soft skills. Now, how do you define soft skills? They are rather much intangible, right, as opposed to hard skills, which are very tangible and you can quantify them, right? So soft skills are measured by communication elements that goes into clusters of what we term as personality traits. You have personality traits, you have got your social graces, your language skills, your friendliness and optimism, right? Whereby all of this will mark a degree of variation of one individual to the other, right? Okay, so when we look at soft skills, we can actually also term them as your life skills, 21st century skills, transversal skills, right? Generic competencies, right? And these are competencies that go hand in hand. In fact, right? I will point out to a slide to you, right? Based on statistics, right? We have realized that when you look at a little bit of your statistics, it is evident that the soft skills are actually becoming, right, very much into a requirement of the 21st century, right? So we'll go to the slides now, right? And we will take on the slides, and you will realize that the employability skills in the 21st century, right? Looking at the statistics, Ms. Sharon, can you visibly see the statistics up on the screen?
Uh, yeah, you might want to enlarge the screen so that they can see clearly.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so looking at the statistics, is that good? That's good. You are visible on the large screen.
Yes, can.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's look at the employability skills. So we were looking at soft skills. Okay, let me take you a little bit on what is happening and what's visible in terms of statistics. Let's look at the percentage here. 91% of talent professionals agree that soft skills is a top trend and it's transforming workplace, right? Hence, it is important to the future of recruiting and HR. So you have the people in HR who are they've got to have their eyes up open, because this is becoming a crucial skill. So you have to look at what do these individuals possess, and also on the pairing part of it is, do we have the right assessments to assess it? Look at the other percentage. 89% say bad hires usually lack soft skills, again from global trends, right? 75% of long term, this is what I'd like to emphasize here, and also I think a point that I'd like all of y'all pay very close attention. Long-term job success depends 75% on soft skills and only 25% on technical knowledge, right? 85% of one's success is due to soft skills, right? And hard skills contribute only to 15%. So I think visibly, right, what you see here is it's actually a crucial denomination that, you as graduates, right, or as an individual realize that soft skills are, a type of skill that is becoming quite a, requirement in terms of hiring, right, today. And of course, on the industry side, they have to also be conscious about how are they doing it? What is the new technologies that is in store? Remember, we're dealing with Generation Z. So, perhaps, they are also the generations where, they need to look at truth, right? They speak what they mean, right? So looking at that, right? Looking at this aspect of the soft skills, I'd like to infuse a little bit on the goal. So we know that soft skills are very crucial. Here comes the fact that, okay, if you have hard skills, so hard skills, we know they are obtained, as I mentioned earlier, in your educational system, in your academic, right? Now, what about soft skills? Today, we realize that the soft skills are becoming crucial. They're becoming a long-term job success. They are the reasons why hires grow, stay longer in organizations, become a little bit more resilient, they adapt, right? They're able to speak their mind, handle stress, right? Deal with conflicts, right? Lead a team of people, contribute effectively in teamworks, right? Liars positively. So these kind of things bring us down into, okay, so now we know that soft skills are crucial. Now, what is the goal of the education institution? Now, the goal we know is to prepare these graduates to be workplace ready. Now, we can prepare them in terms of ensuring they have the right hard skills. You're enrolled into a computing course. You specialize in, let's say, mobile computing. We nurture you, we teach you, we guide you, right? We provide you with the necessary skills, right? We support your educational flow, right? But what about the soft skills? How do you prepare them in workplace, right? So of course we are concerned with the traditional programs whereby they tend to always teach the curriculum in traditional ways, right? And they neglect the knowledge and skills. Here again, emphasizing the soft skills that's necessary in the job market and to survive in the future, which has brought us into what we term as a skills gap. Moving on to the next slide, right? What we would see in terms of the next slide is some important statistics. All right, Ms. Sharon, are you following me in terms of the statistics? Let's share with them some of the statistics that are in place, right? So if we look at some of the statistics, we realize that youth unemployment rates have increased from 2014. Now, again, I'd like you to bear in mind in terms of skills. Like I'd like you to bear in mind and narrow it down into something called soft skills, right? And then the question is, how do we obtain them, right? Now, no doubt it's a personality of what we have, but the behavioral aspect is what we do, what are our actions, right? How do we get guided into right side of actions, right? So when we look at the youth unemployment rate, right, we have a cause of unemployment. So what could be the cause of unemployment? So you have something called mismatch skills, right? Which is contributing factor, could be your job search, could be the whole process of recruitment. You also have the problem of shortage of skills. So here, I'd like to emphasize here there is an unemployment rate, right? The unemployment could be a mismatch of skills. Now, there is something called a mismatch, and there's also something called a skills gap, right? So we'll go on to the skills gap later. But then when unemployment takes in, you have a mismatch whereby the industry requires a set of skills, right? But the graduates possess a set of skills. So where is the flaw here? So the flaw here is is the industry working closely with the academia world to feed them, right? This is where growth is moving. This is industry 4.0. This is automation, right? This is perhaps IoT. This is perhaps smart manufacturing device, cloud computing, big data, right? Smart factories, right? Artificial intelligence. So we are moving all towards that. Now, is the educational institution, right, providing these kind of courses with the right set of skills, with the right set of training, right, and the right set of talent in terms of delivery, right? Academic people, right, individuals who are to have the right set of skills to nurture, right, the graduates, right? So are they nurturing them in the right set of way so that, I can take them and get them workforce ready, right? So these are crucial considerations that educational industries should, think about contributing to the academic world. So how can they do that? Be productive as a part of the industry advisory panel, right? Advise institutions that, look, this is where technology is moving to, right? This is perhaps how we could, create an environment where, graduates have a hands-on experience, perhaps draw a clearer picture of how mentorship programs can be taken on, right? Providing guidance, perhaps how, internships can value and assess and do a post evaluation of both the hard skills and soft skills. So perhaps that way, right, in the long run, as we go through the generations which are coming into the picture today, right, which is Generation Z going into the workforce, perhaps that way we will generate graduates which are employably ready, right? And then we have the other statistics, which is called a skills gap. This is a very, very, very pertinent issue, right? That has been documented, researched, reported, even in QS ranking, right? The QS ranking has actually denoted there are two types of skills gap. Let me talk to you about that. The skills gap, whereby demand versus inability to identify. So today, perhaps with Industry 4.0, there's a demand for a lot of data analytics, data science graduates, right? But the thing is, when we provide courses in educational institution, right? Now, how are these courses in terms of the modules with their learning outcomes, with their achievements, with their objectives, right? How are they, right, matched very clearly to the industry requirements of graduates who are able to interpret, report, creatively synthesize data to provide a little bit more of a gap analysis, right? So demand versus inability to identify, right? So are they lacking in the necessary hard skills? They might have the skill, but do they have the soft skills to be able to be confident and provide, right, a lot of solutions, right, to their workforce, to their superiors, right? There's also a skills gap in terms of the employer expectation, right? The industry where they are hiring graduates. And there's a skills gap between what the graduates possess. In a recent study, which I'd like to share with you, right? The fact that, it's very interesting because they did a survey, right? They did a survey between employers and also graduates, and they realized that one of the most pronounced skills gap is resilience and dealing with conflict, right? So when we look at resilience and dealing with conflict, right, the graduates, right, students, they didn't feel that resilience and dealing with conflict was a crucial soft skills industry was have put on to be their number one criteria of hiring. That means individuals have to be resilient, they have to be able to deal with conflicts, right? They would have to be able to, work in a team that where conflict arises, right? And understand another person's personality and work within that boundary, right? So this resilience is lacked in terms of, they have negative responses to conflicts and stress because you will encounter them in new roles that you take on. Now, it's not a personality trait, as I mentioned earlier, but it's a behavioral aspect that can be learned. It can be nurtured, right? perhaps through, again, mentorship or exposures to competitions or, group projects that take on real life industry delivery, right? And you get feedbacks from the industry. So the thing is, internships, new training methods, or perhaps on the industry side, intelligent selection process are able to identify whether graduates possess that resilience. So there's a gap. My point I'm coming back to is there's a gap to which that you have got what employers find as a skill that's crucial, and students. Now, do they have that? No, they don't. Employers, I need it. So there's a gap, right? But there's also a gap in terms of skills gap within the industry. So within the industry, there's also a skills gap. If you're an industry whereby you're developing into, catering into providing platforms of apps on Android, right? You realize that, you're requiring talent in certain areas of programming languages or platforms or frameworks, right? And you realize that there's a skills gap between you're moving, you're developing, but your current workforce within your organization don't possess it. Right now, the thing is, there's a weight here. Do you develop your current team, identify the individual that has got the closest set of skills and develop him, or do you go out to the market and hire somebody, right, that has got the hard skill? But remember, you need the soft skills. Now, is he able to adapt to your culture? How much of training are you going to invest in that? So there's also a skills gap there. So my point here is there's a skills gap between industry expectations and graduates as they come out, and there's also a skills gap within industries whereby you are moving into new pastures. You're doing a lot of R&D development, right? You need to invest in certain talent, right? Do you want to develop them within or as was to your expectations of your goals, what you have versus what you want to achieve as your goal? And there's a gap there, right? And also, one important aspect I'd like to also talk to you is the point that I've given you in the very beginning, right? The statistics have shown that soft skills are a top trend. They are assets of long-term job success, and they are transforming your workplace, right? So looking at the statistics here in the slides, 4 trends transforming workplace, and you look at the percentage, 91%. All right, trends which are transforming. So today, industries are looking for people who would best fit. Now, when you talk about best fit, you're looking into my requirements of hard skills, which is today very much easily assessed because we have available tools out there, right, to assess your technical skills, what you get from academic, what you have done on job training, right? So if you're good in it, right, we are able to assess you. There are a lot of tools outside there that will tell you that, okay, you're very good at this, you've got a certain percentage in problem solving, right? You're able to code in PHP, right? Your knowledge of Android given the task is great. Yeah, right. You've got the hard skills, but what about your soft skills? All right, which brings us to the next slide, which is, so because the fact that soft skills are achievement skills, right, and personal attributes are behavioral aspect, and they are value added today, and they are what we term as integral, right, in graduate employability, and they are becoming something called hard requirements. They are not nice to have skills, but they are, I must have them. I must have them in order for me to be working in such an organization. I must have them because, I will be dealing with teams. I must have them because I would be, put in a situation where I would have to lead. I must have them because I might be put in a situation where I have to adapt with certain, limitations, right? So how do you assess these soft skills? On the industry side, what's happening? So, today we have many organizations which have moved. And remember, all these points that I told you, employability in the 21st century, what's the change in the market today? We've moved on with Generation X. Why? We are coming into hiring millennials. We're dealing with Generation Z. They question a lot. They put up their opinion, right? They have a unified ID, right? They are communicators. They deal with truths, right? Truth. So, and they are type of people where they get information in a variety of mediums, right? Social networks, digital, basically, right? So in the aspect of the industry, right, let me tell y'all, assessment methods have changed. Today, when you go out there and you want to apply for a job, right, be aware that many organizations, right, perhaps you will be intrigued by them. You'll be excited that many organizations have taken on novel, new, and you'll be surprised that they are using certain strategies that give them a little bit more insight, dig it a little bit more deeper in terms of your soft skills, right? Your personality, your behavior. Remember, your personality is what we are, it's inbuilt. I know it's a bit tough to change, but your behavior, as into what are my actions, my personality might be different, but because I've been exposed and I've been involved, right? I've contributed in the academia world, joined competitions, gone into internship, met a few people, mentored by a leader, right? I might have a personality that I came with in a bag, but then because I've been exposed to all of this, you know, I react. My actions, right? We cannot change what we are, but we can change, right, what we do, right? We can change our actions. We can make quantifiable decisions, right? As into becoming an asset to an organization. So when you look at some of the soft skills assessment methods, right? We have got, looking at the slides, that is, right? We have got some traditional tools, right? That have been used, right? Till today, I will say. I like being a talent search consultant. I still have companies till today, they're using traditional methods. Why? Why do they still use interviews? Why do they still ask you for your CVs, right? Why do they want you to give them references, right? Why do they want you to do a self-report? Why do they put you into a situational judgment test? Why do they put you on IQ, right? Traditional ways, that is, right? Because it is validated, right? It's visible, it's justified, validity is there. Yes, it is predictable, it takes time. You've got to set up an interview, you've got to fill up a few questionnaires about your personality, right? They're all the traditional ways. There is an issue called social desirability. I'll skew my personality more towards what I think denotes a perfect person, right? There is a situation where people tend to do that because you might not want to see what's under the carpet. And of course, it's very time consuming. But my point I'd like to illustrate is it can be successful. Yes, it will take time. If the industry and the company is willing to invest in their asset and they really want to know if it's going to be soft skill that's going to take 60% or 80% of the weight of me hiring, it's okay for me to take time, but I also have to be experienced enough to be able to know, assess during an interview or looking at the outcome of a situational judgment test, right? Or looking at self-report, right? I would have to be able to assess him maybe face to face and understand that this individual, with the way he answers, right, with his nonverbal communication, and and how he asks questions, right, I with experience, of course, I'm able to tell you that he is suitable and I'd like to bring him on board. So it is validated, but given the point that you are experienced to be able to identify, right, those traits visible through all these traditional methods. But like I said, today what's going on is new tools have emerged. And I like to emphasize to you that a lot of organizations are not only conducting traditional interviews, but they've gone to digital interviews, right? One particular software that a lot of companies have invested on today, and even Tesla, Elon Musk has put his foot into it, is called a tool for hiring called Pymetric, right? Which gets you to do a digital interview. So IT graduates, you got to be ready for you to talk about why do you think a company has to hire you, or why do you think your why do you want a salary of that much, right? Why do you want to pursue your career in an area such as mobile or be a front end developer, right? So you've got to perhaps have a digital interview to explain, right? So they do a audio and video profiling, right? On top of that, big data, past and current performance, right? Which is related to taking details from your professional social network, which is LinkedIn, right? And don't be surprised, because we have the Generation Z and we are going into a global economy where information is going to be a source of decision making. I mean, content is king, right? Social media analytics, right? So we have got social media profiling, social media analytics, whereby they do take time to look into how you would comment. So you've got scrapping that takes place into your social media presence. So guys, be careful, right? What you say, right? But like I said, Generation Z, you speak your mind, right? And that is what they would like to search for in terms of. But one thing I like to emphasize today, a lot of companies are going into novelty called game-based assessment. Why companies are moving into assessing soft skills using game-based assessment? Because they found that with a stealth assessment. Stealth means you immerse yourself. You don't even feel as if you're being assessed. But because it's using gaming elements, you take through a flow of playing a game. Behind the gaming elements, there are psychological aspects of your decisions that you've made through your actions. It gives you a little bit more motivation. You're engaged. It's an innovative tool. It overcomes this problem called social desirability, and the aspect that it gives you the fact that it reduces faking. A lot of many identifiable companies have put their foot into using this kind of assessment to best identify the soft skills, right? And the thing is, it has become quite effective, but the problem we have with these tools is it provides you with a pre-assessment mechanism, but the validity of the post. So when I play a game, right, and I get hired based on the relevant soft skills, right? Now, would I exude the set of soft skills as I played upon maybe 3 months of internship or 6 months of probation, right? Did I exude it? Did the game, right, parallelly show the employers that what I was hired on and matched based on job requirements, right, is what I exuded in terms of post, right, employment. So that's hence why these techniques, their validity is questionable upon employment, right? And there is a lot of research that is being done to fit in this gap. Right. Okay. So, which basically, drives me to talking to you about the fact that as computing graduates, my small little advice that I have for you is think of what we term as I want to share with you something, a wonderful term that Warren Buffett that has come up with, something called Circle of Competence. So you guys, when you get into all you graduates, when you go out there, right, there are a lot of things that you have to be aware of, right? Your first journey into an academic institution is your passion. You're passionate about something, you're obsessed about something. I'm using a very powerful word here, obsession. I'm not using the word called, a lot of people tend to ask you, what's your interest, right? Interest is a very loose word. I'd like to use this word called obsession. What are you obsessed about? I mean, of course, I'm talking about your career here. So what are you obsessed about? So like, for example, if we take Bill Gates was so obsessed about programming. He dived deep into it, right? Steve Jobs, he was obsessed about, calligraphy, design. Hence, you have what he came out with, profoundly Apple, right? And you even have Warren Buffett himself at the age of 12, right? He used his pocket money to start investing, right, on stocks, right? So they were obsessed with this. And hence, Warren Buffett had come up with this thing called Circle of Competence. As graduates, getting yourself into an area, a passion, an obsession to make it your career, you have to think about what are you so obsessed about, right? And put that into what is termed as the circle of competence. So when you look at the circle of competence, you're actually looking at the circle to which that these are skills that you have mastered. You can put them into a boundary, right? Okay, so don't be bothered about what's beyond the boundary, right? Look at what is within. And I'd like to advise you that in that boundary there has to be two sets of obsessed skills, right? Two sets of skills whereby you're obsessed on a particular hard skills, right? You are wanting to build yourself into being an AI expert, a machine learning expert, or a neural network expert, right? Or even a person who likes to build expert systems, right? That's your obsession. You go deeper into it, you expand into it, right? Okay, so you have to know what's your circle of competence in your soft skills. What are you obsessed about? You're obsessed about being a leader. You're obsessed about working in teams, to which that you have got a skill in you that's able to manifest among many individuals, right? That people are able to work with you, look at your insights, right, clearly, or maybe accept other people's insights and work around it, you see. So the thing is, the size of the circle is not important, right? But knowing what your boundary is, right, and making sure that you invest time, you invest and nurture. So there's an individual part that you play, as well as the educational institution can also contribute, right, in perhaps organizing competitions sponsored by companies, right? And knowing that that is the trait, that is the competency that is required, right? And it's very easy to lead this kind of obsession, predominantly to cater to a particular industry that is seeking this kind of talent. All right. So my advice to you is build a circle of competence, and work within it. Start by working and pointing out what is your core competency, and build that competency, nurture it, and find ways to which that you can join a group of people who have the common shared interest, common shared obsession. Let me correct you, common set obsession, and build that. And you are a person who will be able to you're not mediocre, you are an expert in it, right? And being an expert is something that people will recognize you for. And once you've already get that obsession in place, right, you can be your own entrepreneur, build your own capabilities by putting it into something that can be churned workably, and that can be seen by the industry, right? And tap, right? And that's where people would want to tap your capabilities, right? And you be sought after. Now, once you've already mastered that, now if you want to go out of that, you're comfortable, you've already been known, recognized, you're doing pretty great, but you want to explore something else, then you can go beyond your boundary. But today, now, at this moment, if you're a graduate and you're starting your journey, whichever institution, it doesn't matter, right? You know what's your obsession, sorry. Build your circle of competence, right? And let me tell you, in my journey as an academician, like I told you earlier, I've dealt with graduates, students, which from the earliest level of their foundation, and when I teach them and when I see that, there is something that this individual, that this candidate is able to do, push them to the maximum. It's okay. As an academician, it doesn't matter whether you're liked or you're disliked. Nobody is going to win the best lecturer competition. But, as an academician, you have to see beyond that individual. You have to nurture that individual and push them to the maximum, throw them into a deep sea, give them responsibility, take in extra curriculum activities, throw them into an internship program that requires them to explore something that they've not explored beyond, right? And realizing that there's actually potential in themselves, right? And that's a point that as an academician I realized that once you reach a stage that you have exhausted your capabilities, you're able to identify what are your core skills, that you can carry that and you can weight them and say that you have them as best compared to the rest. And it's also crucial as graduates going out there that you have a good aura of yourself when you meet industry partners and your potential work environments, right? And that's a contributing factor. And on the industry side, organizations have to be well aware of the type of individuals. Yes, in my journey as being a person who has placed my passion lies in ensuring that I have the best fit of an individual to an organization. So I'm in the middle. I'd like to see how individuals grow. So when I tie a potential job opportunity to individuals, to an industry, I always look into and many HR practitioners should look into how are they going to grow? What is his credibilities? What are his skills? How is this organization going to grow and nurture this individual? So only then you realize that you have put yourself in an organization that values you. You are a value, you're an asset, you are a must have, right? And grow you within, right? And make you recognized, right? As somebody that's a contributing factor to this industry. So, and to actually be aware that you are doing well and you're happy, right? And you look forward, right, to going to work, right, and knowing that the company is what best fits you is, I think, what every individual should look at. And as in any industry, right, you should be able to value them as assets in organizations, right? So this is a little bit of my insight in terms of being ready and employable in the 21st century, and knowing that my point to you today is, hard skills and soft skills come hand in hand. Yes, no doubt there are some industries, which will pay a very heavy weight on hard skills, but I like to draw to attention that you can have the hard skills, but what will make you stay, grow, long term, be value, integral, right? Are what you are profoundly, individually, which you have, right? And which something that you can nurture. And that starts not only as your personality, but that starts at the educational front itself. What are we providing them with in terms of the universities in their journey to gain at least, right, 40% or 50%? Let them go into the industry and let them expose themselves 50%, and I believe that the internship programs are also very crucial for them to be nurtured rightfully. So these are some of my thoughts, Sharon. I hope I've not taken too much of time to share with you my experiences and my points, I'm open to any questions that anybody has, in this session. And I hope I've touched everything that falls off my experience, and my journey as being an academician to a talent search consultant in the area of IT tech world today.
Okay, Miss Emma. We can see that nowadays, of course, with our current generation of students now, you can see that responsibilities is one of the main issue. So
Yeah.
some of the students, I think they don't really bother that to have a full attendance of classes. And then when their behavior, as you mentioned, the behavior is actually one of the main thing that the company will actually assess beside their technical skill, right?
Yeah.
So in this behavior part, what do you think that how we can help them to actually enhance on a bit on their behavior. Because sometimes, okay, for example, like when we are trying to be harsh on them to make them perform a certain thing, they always feel that the lecturer is some sort like torturing them. So that's what the student feel, but they don't know that we are actually helping them to build a better character and a behavior so that they can survive in the industry.
Yeah.
So what do you think if, let's say, since you have worked with most of the companies to place the students into the companies or the fresh grad, you place them in the company, what do you think that the first things that they will look at the fresh grad beside looking at the technical skill? The top
So
three?
yeah, so I think what the crucial skills that the industries would look for. I mean, there are actually looking at statistics. There are actually, and based on feedbacks of a lot of HR practitioners and industry requirements, in terms of documentation and in terms of you know uh, filtering and also assessment, right? Today, things such as resilience, things such as adaptability, willingness to change, decision making, teamwork, learning agility, integrity, accountability. These are all key soft skills that companies will look for. So, and like what I told you, assessment methods have changed. And, today, instead of asking questions such as, what is your area of passion? Questions being asked by the industries is, why have you decided to take mobile development as your area of career path? See, so when you are shot with these kind of questions, right, you have to think about aspects of your journey. Why do you take that? Did you realize that that was in demand, or did you get inspiration because you started toying with things when you were young, you see? Or was there a subject in your module that a lecturer has inspired you to develop something that's going to be potentially a market product to a potential client, you see? So these are all motivational factors for individuals. So the point that you say, how do you nurture that behavior for them to ideally be very positive, right? My advice is, my initial point, we as academicians, we have to provide them proof of concept. There has to be some insights. So you'd have to bring in perhaps a same level, or maybe a generation lower to them. Maybe for Gen Z, you have to bring a millennial who probably has dropped everything, risk it, and built a startup, and listen and hear from him. So sometimes the same not same age group, but perhaps the same mentality of why I was such a student like this, but what made me go. So when they hear, they get inspired, they get motivated. And many a times when I conduct workshops, when I conduct university branding, when I invite developers of the same age group, right, to come in and talk, and I realize that there is a lot of attention, there's a lot of engagement, rather than you have a lecturer who's standing there and talking to them about, okay, this is everything that's got to do about this module, so they're not motivated. But then you try to link that module to somebody who has made it successful and telling you, guys, listen up, this is where I was, this is where I am, this was my mistake, this is how I wish I could turn back time. And that is something that they will realize as an eye-opener. And my advice to the academic world is always get the industry to play a very, very seen, heard, visible involvement in the academy world, because we tend to, especially in the technology industry, and especially we as, and you, Ms. Sharon, as a academic technology lecturer, we have to see the correlationship of what is in need, what's in demand, today's working environment, what's the culture. So today when I get talents on board, the first thing they ask me, it's surprising, a lot of them maybe partially don't ask me about the salary. The first thing they ask me is, how's the working environment? What's the culture like? Right? What's the diversity like? So we've got to be aware, that we are moving into a different generation where they'd like to, eloquently, mix themselves around people and communities which are a little bit more, open-minded. You see, so and these are the things that we have to bring in, and even bring in empowered female developers. I had a session where I brought a female developer, and all the students were like, wow, very, very good, and wow, very good skills, how. And then you had them engaging with her, like, how did you get into this journey? So all of these are today's motivating factor for the generation of students that we have sitting down in classrooms today. This is the way we have to engage them. And on our side also, we have to be very fruitful in ensuring the internship makes an impact to them. Don't just get them into internships because, great, you've tied them into an internship portfolio. But again, my point, they have an obsession. Now, when they tie to an internship company, at least 20% of what they're obsessed with, right, is what they will, because let me tell you, the internship is the start of their career, not their employment upon internship, right? The internship. And also, if you go a little bit more further down, their exposure to your final year projects. What projects did they do? Which company nurtured them? And you have a lot of guidance from this company, and the students tend to attach themselves to individuals because they look at them as mentors. All right. So, and mentor programs are good, with industries, you see. So, yeah, Ms. Sharon, that's I hope it's not too much.
So basically, from your point of view, you see that during their academic life, the student academic life, so towards the end, the project is one of the important
Yes.
assessments that they can actually prove to the companies that they are competent,
Yes.
right? So after that, the internship is one of the internship, or we call it as the industrial training. So that will be a part that is very important for them to learn, for them to try to adapt to the working world of environments and so on.
Yeah,
So
that's true. That's true.
so the only thing is the students, they always take industrial training like it's just a playground for them. I think
Yeah.
that is the main issue that most of the young generation now that is doing. They just take it like a playground. They just go there for the sake of taking and
You're
passing
right.
the particular module.
You're right. You're right. And on that note, these graduates who fall under that category of playground, when they finish their internship, let me tell you, they are still very loosely coupled. Like, I'm not too sure what I want to do. I'm not too sure whether I did the right course, you see. So I think as an institution, maybe, even in the second year when they start to specialize, maybe, we can draw it a little bit more deeper to them to see that, start thinking about what do you want to do in terms of your internship? Where do you want to hit? Is there a particular company that you have an eye for? Why that company? See, when did you start having this insight into this company? What is their technology that they are doing, or is there somebody that you've spoken to? So most of the students, the inspiration comes from our exposure as academicians. So we have to do our part to expose them to the right set of good industries. I mean, there are a lot of bad hats out there, I have to be very honest with you. They just hire because, they just need to fit in their quota and just get them to, especially tech, develop. But you don't have a great life. You are not able to, work in a nice cultural fit environment. You don't find them as a family. And that, creates a lot of friction when you have teamwork. You see, so you as graduates and as universities, we also have to be very integral and play our part responsibly in ensuring that the right industry, right, are given the right set of talent to nurture, to grow. I think the volume.
Okay, I think we have one student from Masa University. He's trying to ask one of the question. Usually students do internship at the end of the degree. If anyone wants to do it after the fifth or sixth semester instead of the last semester, then it's useful or possible. So I think for this, Bashir, in this case, we are in this way, after the 5th or 6th semester, it could be a bit too early because you might not have enough technical skill. Okay, so in part of the government regulations, they actually hope that you will do at the end so that you will know more before you can go into the company. Because in the company side, okay, industrial and company side, they are expecting the student will have some kind of minimum skill in order to start with, right, Miss Hema?
Yes, you're right. You're spot on, spot on. Yeah. I
Yeah, so
think,
I think that's what we can tell you. 5th or 6th semester is a bit too early. Okay,
yeah.
one is of course student might not be matured enough. Okay, so still trying to build your skill and to build up some behavior towards working life and so on.
Because I think on that point, Sharon, his question was, you want to be exposed to the industry at the earlier stage, right? There's a difference between want and and how well you will fit. You see, so Miss Sharon's point is you need to weigh yourself with sufficient academic and knowledge to be able to contribute to the industry. So when you get into the industry as internship, yeah, you might not be doing the weight of a full-time employed individuals, but you will be taking some form of responsibility and you are still considered an asset. So the question you should pose yourself is, with, let's say, with minimal academic and knowledge and educational infusion, are you able to walk into a company and say that I have all of this and I'm able to? Most of the time you'll end up saying, I've not covered that, I've not been exposed to that. So then you realize that the industry is becoming the academic institution teaching you. So the teaching part, the education institution has to do with a lot of weight. And then comes the testing part. Yes, the industry can train you, right? Can put you on board, can train you, can invest in you, but they would have expected a certain weightage for educational institutions to have already fitted you with, right, like a Lego, right, and be ready to contribute, right, and you'll be a great investment. And that's why my I like to raise the point. A lot of the great graduates who have an obsession and know where they are focused, and the industries can see their strength and their soft skills and hard skills, they will be absorbed. So you'll realize once you put your 100%, 110%, right, into your internship, you work hard and you show that you're a talent in a specific area, you realize that you will be absorbed and you'll be given an employment. I just had a graduate who just finished his internship and he was offered a full-time employment, and he turned around and said, Miss Emma, thank you so much for this opportunity, right? And the company found him as an asset. He fitted very well. 3 months of internship he gave his, and he's a software quality tester, right? So he worked full-fledged software quality tester, and I was able to realize that he had the soft skills in him. Very, very adaptable to new environment, communicates very well, willing to, take on multiple projects in his hand, and he had the learning agility that pushed him to, know more than what is needed, right? Always going ahead, always taking 5 steps forward, right? Rather than wait, right, for people to teach you, to nurture you, right? Getting yourself into training programs, enrolling into online courses, getting certifications on your own. Don't wait for people to tell you to do this. Find what is your obsession, nurture it, put it into your circle of competence.
Okay. I think that due to the time constraint, we will answer to the last question that the student is trying to ask. Okay, what is your comment about the difficulties of international students to get a place in any institutions in Malaysia to start the internship? I think basically he asking for company instead of institution. So what do you
Okay.
think? Is
So
it difficult?
basically, I think to be very honest with you, as we all know, there are timelines. There's a situation that we are all going through, which is a pandemic now. So I'll be very honest with you. Yes, with the COVID situation now, in terms of job opportunities, I mean, as a talent consultant, I'll be very frank with you, right? In terms of people who have got experience. I'm not talking about graduates who are coming in for internship, but even those with great experiences unless, and of course, if you're very good, you have an obsession. And remember, I told you this earlier, right? You can solve that problem, right? Like this, as faster than a person who has got a basic knowledge. You will be sought after and companies will want to invest. And then on the company side, what is their weight? They have more emphasis on hard skills. I mean, this is companies. Sometimes they want a person who is a good Flutter developer. I'm looking for a person who can dive in, no training required, dive in, and we are willing to invest. And companies they have a need, they have their investments they can take on, and they are willing to take. So yes, there is a market issue now. Unless you're very good, right, they will invest because they can afford to go on a low profile now to invest, right, on international students, because of course also with a lot of overflow of graduates coming in now, right, they are able to choose. In my front, looking into hiring at the moment now, there is a little bit of a slow pull, right, in terms of full-time hires, right, of international students with the current pandemic. But I foresee it will pick up because based on my statistics of before March, right, I've placed a few good talent international students into great companies, right, and are still attached to companies, you see. And you are on a working permit pass, and that also depends on your performance, you see. But for internships, I think, Ms. Sharon would be able to answer, whether or not at this moment, we have industries who are, either hesitating or, upfront. I think it's a slowdown also, right, Sharon? It's a bit of a slowdown.
I think to place for the internship, it shouldn't be any problem. So in order for them to actually to stay long term and to get a working permit as a permanent, like
Yeah.
what Ms. Hema have mentioned, you have to really prove yourself
Yes.
that
Yes.
you are better than others and you can perform and help the company to grow. So there's still a chance to get a job for international student to get a permanent job in
Yes.
Malaysia.
Yes.
But you have
Definitely.
to prove yourself that you are competent, okay, your behavior is good or even better than the others. So in the other way, we can say that you have to really take the opportunity to perform during your internship so that they can see that you are shining among the others.
Yeah. I think the key word is also to outperform. I think it's
Mm.
to outperform the rest, because remember, if you have an obsession on a particular area, right, and you carry the right set of both, right, personality overlapping with your behavioral traits, right, then you are definitely going to be sought after in the working world. And bear in mind, you have to also ensure the first question you got to ask, don't just go for salary, go for growth, right? You want to grow in an organization. You want to be seen as a person who's been recognized, right? And let me tell you, for graduates today, right, your investment in your learning journey should also consider startup companies. So startup companies are willing to invest in talent, and you take through the journey from the very beginning to either being successful or not. One of the question that when you get hired for a job in Google is, right, tell us one of your failures which has taught you success. All right, to never give up, you see. So failures are also a journey for you to propel to be better, right, to find a solution, to make an improvement into why it failed. So the questions today are why. The questions today are not so much, right, what, you see. So yeah, so that's my insight in it, Sharon.
Okay, I think we are okay, after 1 hour now, it's more than 1 hour. So before we end, I would like to thank Miss Hema for sharing her experience and how the industry actually handles all the fresh grads in their interview and the placements of job. Most probably in the future, we will get you in, okay, to give some talks to our students in diploma in IT and also in our Bachelor of IT, because for us, our student is mainly, they are looking more towards the hard skill rather than the soft skill. For them, they feel that soft skill is not as important as hard skill. So we can have you in to give a
Sure,
talk. I believe that it will actually help our students a lot in the
sure,
future. Okay,
definitely,
thank
because
you. very much
Thank
for
you very
that.
much.
So,
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good luck in your journey and good luck to Sharon. And thank you, Masa University, for this privilege. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Miss Emma.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.